It generates a sum of income per month right now. So it is cash flow is minus your debts, which could be your maintenance, your taxes, your insurance, versus what is bringing your rental income. So you subtract that, and that's where you get your cash flow. So say if I have $1,000 a month rental, a rental income per month, and my taxes are 200, insurance is 200, and maintenance is 200. That's 600. That means my cash flow for that house is $400 per month right now. So that's how cash flow is will generate. So I look for those type of homes, and how I find those homes is that it's kind of twofold. Sometimes I do a thing called driving for dollars. So you can actually be in a neighborhood that you want to be in, and you'll just drive around, neighborhoods. The summer is the best time to drive in dollars, in my opinion, because anytime you see a bunch of weeds, you see a bunch of flyers and doors, like, guess what? Something's up with this house right there. Someone's not really paying attention to it, because everybody hates those little Asian flyers. You taking things down all the time. So when they're up and there's an abundance of them, you write down that address, and you can perform what you call a skip trace. A skip trace is when you're actually, there's plenty of programs out there. You can actually use white pages on Google, or sometimes you can just Google their name or Google the address, and that will come up. So in Delaware County, you can actually go into real estate taxes. So I can actually put that address in the real estate tax and actually see that person's name and where it's getting mailed. In Philadelphia, they only tell you the owner. They won't actually give you the address of where the tax bill is mailed to, unless you have a separate program. So that's how you can actually find their names. Once you find their names, you can use like Bell's Link. So Bell's Link is a skip trace that you can do 30 searches a month, and it's only $10 for 30 searches. So I can input that name or address into bellslink.com, and it'll give me their auntie's information, basically everybody that comes under that house or that name or associated with them, it'll come up there, so I can actually easily locate and talk to them.
And I use White Pages Premium, which is $20 a month, and it's unlimited searches. And it also gives you their information and all their family's information, cell phone numbers, everything.
You said White Pages and what was that?
Bell's Link.
Bell's Link.
Yes.
Premium White Pages. If you use regular, you might not be able to get that detail, but if you pay $19.99 a month, you can get access to that. So those are some options.
Yeah. And that's how you find the owner. Once I find the owner, I call them up. My approach for everything is that I never rush a deal. So I never offering any money. My approach is always to offer lunch, dinner, and let's meet, because I like to build a rapport. So I'll meet maybe 2 or 3 times with the owner before I even talk about money. I just want to get to know them and know what their needs are. And I think that's really customer service and sales. I need to know what is your need right now, and let me see if I can present that to you.
So the scenario you just went through, the role play, is that an example of you built a relationship, or was that cold call?
That was just maybe a cold call, and I wouldn't actually say, hey, 100,000, but I was trying to go in numbers, so I kind of jumped ahead and rushed into that.
Okay, but I meant the approach. You approach this person.
I think my approach would just be different. I would introduce myself, Noel Purnell, just an investor in Philadelphia. Would you like to sit down for, normally it's always say coffee or tea.
Okay.
Let's sit down and discuss your home.
Okay.
What are you doing with it? Some people want to give their homes to, I've had situations like that where they wanted to actually give it to their daughters or son-in-laws, and I help them work that deal to get that done for them. So it just depends on the scenario of what their want is. I always say, the more you give, the more is received. So, that's my approach on things.
It's not always about money, it's about terms and understanding what someone needs, and it's not always just a number.
So after I meet with them a couple of times and I see what they want and I can see what their need is, then I will start discussing, okay, what are you comfortable receiving? Now I've already did my research already, so I don't really show my hand. I'll look and say, guess what, this neighborhood, guess what, this is what that house will appraise for, because appraisals do matter depending on what bank or credit union you go to. An appraisal is just, they're going to go through a comp of the neighborhood. So they'll take several homes that match the home of your interest. So if you have a home that's 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, they'll start looking in a 0.5 which is a half-mile radius, and they'll start pulling up other homes in the same condition or better with 3 bathrooms, 1 bath, picket fence, things of that nature. They'll go into those type of details I've seen in some appraisal reports. They do sometimes. And I'll go ahead and do that information right there. I'm not a realtor, so I would call someone like Paris and be like, hey, they have access to Bright, or they call it Bright now, MLS, and you can run these comps for me. Once I have those comps, I'm going in and now I'm looking at the rental income. Like, what can I make in rental income in this neighborhood? So they have certain programs like rentalmeter.com that can give you a snapshot of what that neighborhood is bringing in, like that radius. So I use rentalmeter.com a lot. Actually, I'm a pro member on there as well. But you can actually use the regular, you can put in your bedrooms, studios, houses, and they'll let you know what's coming up and what the mean is, the high end, the low is for that neighborhood and that house and that surrounding. And so I will come up with that price, like, okay, I can rent that. And then I'm also gauging, okay, what is the condition of the house? So next, I'm going to ask, like, hey, do you feel comfortable with me walking the house right now? I've had some houses where you come through and you're like, oh man, this is a lot of work right here. At that beginning stage, I didn't have any capital, so for those houses that actually needed work, I walked away from. What I know now, about 4 years later, I wish I didn't do that because I wasn't really using private money and things of that nature back then. But I actually could have made those deals work, and they would have been really lucrative right now, which you kind of learn in those situations. So for this particular property in Franklin, I walked the property and I was like, okay, this is actually in good shape right there. There was some painting that needed to be done, which I was like, I can do that myself. And the bathroom vanity, and I was like, I can YouTube that, change it out. So I did. I YouTubed a lot. I'm not gonna lie, I did. I changed out the vanities and hot water heaters all through YouTube. And how I got those appliances, because again, I was very frugal. So I would go to it's on Washington Ave now, the
Habitat for
Humanity, yes. So I would get, I know you. Right here, but Habitat Humanity, I would get my doors from there because they had things that's like low budget. Then I would paint the doors, install them. So I changed out the doors, hot water heaters, vanities, and I was like, okay, this is nice. And then the way I gauge if something is nice to me is like, would I live here? Would I lay my head here? So I don't invest anything or rent anything where I say I would not lay my head here or put my mother in. So that's another rule that I kind of put in place. Like, I need to actually have that here. Once that was done, I actually put a family in there for, believe it or not, they were actually was Section 8, but $1,600, So I had a family that was interested for like $1,600. And so they ended up going with that 7%, which I was paying $295. So I was actually cash flowing after like taxes, because Darby taxes were a little bit higher. I was cash flowing about $686 a month. So that was really good to me, and I was like, great. But then I had to learn how to landlord on the opposite end. So she had a class on landlording. So landlording is the ultimate patience, people will call you and everything. But I brought that right there for $686. $686 of the cash flow. So what I start doing now is that, okay, this is proven and it works. Oh, let me back up. I'm sorry. Back up right there, contract time. So the contract time, who has a lawyer in here? Get a good lawyer when you do a contract. My first contract, I took law from Phoenix, I took law from Nevada, and I was just copy and pasting, and I really could have got myself in trouble. I kind of look at those them earlier contracts, I'm like, man, I could have really been sued. And I was putting everything under my personal name a lot too as well at the time. So again, I was very, 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 very raw.
You talked about personal name.
Yeah.
What should you do to avoid those issues? What should you get?
I'd say either the LLC or a trust. And even with your LLCs now, I'm even, because I have so many properties, I was putting a lot of LLCs in different names, but now I am combining all my properties under one LLC, but my insurance on my LLC is $25 million. So my 25 million on my insurance of that one LLC covers if anything will happen. Any slips and falls and those things like that. You just increase insurance over your LLC instead of going through so many different LLCs. Because what happens is that you're gonna have to pay taxes on all those LLCs and K1s and things of that nature. And K1s are when you're actually in a partnership with somebody within an LLC. That's what you have to give to your CPA or tax accountant in order to do your taxes. So I really start stepping away from doing so many different LLCs unless I'm flipping. I may keep one, like normally I have like 8 flips going on right now, so I'll just name it like, I have one Larchwood, 5728 Larchwood LLC. I'll just call it that for itself because I know I'm selling it off and then it's done. But for all my rentals now, I go under one big umbrella and I just increase my insurance to 25 million right now instead of having them there. But make sure you get good LLC coverage and things of that nature. So back to the seller financing and what you can do for it, how you can utilize it. The pros to seller financing is that it's quick and it's easy. You don't have to wait for a mortgage officer and going through all the paperwork. Most times your rates are going to be higher, but you have a better in into the property. So what I mean by that is that I always throw out 5%. 5% is normally like my seller financing go-to because if they had any money in the bank, it's only owning like 0.02%. So if I can earn 5%, that's more than what current stock market is earning. Insurance investment is about 6%, but 5 is like a good starting point for seller financing to earn on your money for a house that you don't want to be in or you're just leaving it there. So most people will jump at that offer for 5% on there.
If someone's getting less than 1% though in regular savings, and you may be in a financial situation you might not be able to afford 5%, can you negotiate lower? Would you advise not to do that?
You can go lower. You can offer
Negotiate 3%.
Yes. If I can get time to go into simple 2 deals, I kind of offer like 0% on things. But I start off with that. But you can offer low. I think the numbers have to make sense. A good deal is where both parties walk away feeling, guess what? I got what I wanted. I have like personal managers, but I don't want anybody feeling like, guess what, they got cheated, and then that's going to be your energy that you're putting out to the world,
yeah.
And then your name will get around like that, like, he's shiesty or he's cheating, like, that'll get out there. So I always like to make sure, like, people walk away like, hey, this still has to work for me and you, and if I have some kind of non-negotiables that I need the deal to work for me, in order for it to be successful, then I'll be honest of like, I can't help you with this. Now I'm in a position now where I can say, guess what, this is what you can do with this property, let me give you this resource. Back then I would just have to walk away and it's like, this is not a good deal for neither of us right now.
The L is right there. So during our role play, you explained before, you said, you used the term saying, I want you to be the bank. I understand what you mean by that. Can you kind of elaborate on what you mean by a person being the bank?
Yes.
Just go into that a little bit.
So when the person's the bank, you actually go through title. So when they go to the bank, and title is where they're going to start running, if there are any liens.
Why do we call the person the bank? Let's start with that.
All right. You call the person the bank because they hold the mortgage note for you.
So basically the human being is substituting the bank. Instead of taking the loan out or the note out from Wells Fargo or whatever bank, you're taking the note out from the person. So they are guaranteed. So you get this money from, whatever entity, a bank, but instead it's a person replacing the bank. Does that make sense?
Yep. And keep in mind that the advantage of there is that when you go through like a Wells Fargo or any credit union, you're going to have all types of fees and points that they're going to place on there. When you actually use the owner as the bank, you're not going to have any origination fees. You'll have your title fees, you'll have your transfer taxes. That's about it normally. So you can actually get into like closing fees for under, normally I've seen them like $1,400. So you need some type of money there, which I always advise people get in, like if you don't own any real estate and you actually get a tax return or things of that nature, I would just take that to the side and then start shopping around for seller financing deals where you can actually hold the person as the bank.
And do you recommend using a third-party servicing company for the transactions?
Yes. So
Explain what that is. I just said it.
basically, for the transaction, that will be your title company now. And so what your title company will do is that they will actually make sure that that is the rightful owner. They will check for liens. They will check that have you ever seen a title? I actually have one right here. So I can show you one. If you want to pass it around.
Is your title company up to know now?
Huh? At that time, also, no, not yet. I'm actually purchasing it, so you can pass that around.
Okay.
So right now, that is actually a deed. That's an original deed for one of my earlier deals that I did for seller financing, and back in this is 2016 or 17 for one of those deals right there, and that's actually 215 North Crichton Street. I'll talk about this deal a little bit later because it was more of a seller financing and a subject to deal, and I'll explain what a subject to deal is as well. So when they have your title company, the title company will go ahead and they'll do all the background checks of that property and just make sure there's no liens, the correct domain, the property square footage is correct, and also they'll actually transfer the deed to your name from them. So that's how it also gets recorded downtown. You don't actually have to go to a title company if you don't want to. You can actually make your own agreement of sale for seller financing, and you can actually go down to Recorder of Deeds in City Hall and actually do it yourselves. It's just that you can check title, but all they do is go down there and they actually pull up the house. Recorder of Deeds is, I think, room 205. And any house in Philadelphia, you can kind of look it up, and you can actually, it takes some time, but if you have the time, you can go through and see if any liens are in that house, and you can actually just go down there and do that deal yourself.
But what's the benefit of having, we're talking about servicing. Professional
Yes.
servicing, but also just title insurance and the importance of that. Because even if you don't get the loan serviced through them, it's still important to get title insurance.
Insurance. Now see, the title insurance though is, what the title insurance actually does, in whole, is that it's protecting the title company if any mistakes they have.
Right.
So if they actually, guess what, they messed up and that person doesn't really own that home, guess what, now it's insured, so guess what, it can be reversed back, you can get any funds that you actually placed up. That's really kind of what title insurance is for. But you can actually absolutely do things yourself. I don't recommend it. I know a lot of people will do their own title searches and things like that. That's just not, it's very time consuming and you have to have that time. Most people, like I was doing, I was working full time in the lab. I was a scientist by nature, so I was working in the lab at GSK for a number of years. So I had long hours, so I really didn't have time during the day to go down to City Hall and start searching titles.
At what point this title search is done prior to you
Closing.
sealing the deal?
Correct.
Okay. At what point is it a done deal? When you say close the deal and it's seller financing, does that take place when you do this balloon payment?
The balloon payment is just a expiry of the loan. So that's actually what balloon payment is. People say, I don't know why they call it. It busts. That's why they call it a balloon.
But that's like the end, right?
That's the end.
Yeah.
So it will be implemented inside of your contract.
Okay.
And the closing, you actually own the house when you actually go to closing. So that day of, where you're actually going to pay your title services and fees, then you'll go ahead and sign your name on a dotted line. Some of them give a lot of paper. You can be giving up your organs and stuff as well. And some of you never signed a mortgage.
Yeah.
I know. Now I just sign. I'd be like, all right, they just want to take it. But once you sign on that dotted line, then that home is officially yours now. So once you at closing, once you have a closing date, so once both parties and the title comes back, the title will send something called a HUD sheet. And a HUD sheet will look like this. That's what a HUD sheet will look like. So a HUD sheet will give you the breakdown of all the numbers that you're using to purchase the real estate, transfer taxes and things of that nature, and it'll tell you what's owed on the day of closing for you to take ownership of this property.
Can you go into
into the balloon payment
Yes.
a little bit more? Because I know you were saying that like doing
So
the
a balloon, you can negotiate your balloon payment. Most people, you can throw it out. If there's to say a neighbor, you can say, I want a payment. I wouldn't use like balloon because then they're like, what is balloon?
Exactly.
Yeah, so you would just say,
Well, what is that? That is my question.
you'll say, guess what? I will refinance this property out in 5 years. And a refinance is that you're going to be taking your property to the bank and you're going to be taking the difference of what the home is worth and what is owed, and then you'll be going into a traditional mortgage, so to speak, there. And so that's what that refinance means. Balloon is just that, guess what? It's an expiry. So when I say a balloon of 5 years, that means, what are we in, like 18? So 2023, this property needs to be settled. And if you don't have it settled, most clauses and contracts will say, guess what? You will have to pay for that title and service to go back into their name. And so that's where that balloon payment is. Did I answer that, students? What questions do you have? Because it seems like you still understand, so I want to make sure I
The
get it to you.
balloon payment, I'm trying to grasp that. Like, what's the perk for them?
Well, the perk for them is that within that time frame, they're giving interest-only payments.
Okay.
So you could throw principal in there, but then that gets a little bit confusing. Well, some people can do it. But the interest-only payments means, guess what? You're just receiving this amount plus the total purchase price that you want right now. So remember, we said that we're going to give them at 7% on that $100,000. That equates to about $5,000 a year. So right now, say we're going to balloon for 3 years. This deal will expire in 3 years in 2021. At that time, you will receive your $100,000 and you will have accumulated $15,000 in interest-only payments. So now you're really getting a house for $115,000. So that's why it's more intriguing to them. Like, hey, I can do this. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to kind of elaborate on something. When we were doing the role play, you stated that your credit wasn't where you wanted it to be, right?
Yeah, I'm very transparent because they want to know why most people want to know, why can't you just go to the bank? Why can't we go right now? Why do we have to wait these 3 years? And that's where I would say be transparent. At my time, my credit was like 487. I think it's actually on my Instagram. If you ever follow me on Instagram, I actually posted my credit scores from that time. It was like 487, 512. I couldn't get a library card. I'd be rejected from everything. Serious. So it was good to be very transparent on why you can't do this, but what's the perk for them if they do this for you. And that's also a reason to build that rapport, is that you want to let them know that, guess what? Rapport is trust, so you want to actually instill that in them and actually give them their benefit.
It's also like an education period for
Yeah,
them
because
too.
a lot of people don't know
Right.
financing.
Right.
Actually, the deed that's going around, that particular lady never knew what owner financing was, and that deal actually took almost 7 months. So we met at Panera Bread in Trooper, PA, every Saturday for 7 months.
Wow.
And worked that deal for that one right there that's being passed around. So 7 months we worked because she didn't know, but she told me she went with me because I didn't hassle her like everybody else was trying to sell. Which I kind of, that's my thing. I just don't. It's not worth it. You should always build that rapport and be calm. It's okay.
Thanks for. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say thank you for explaining that, because like I wasn't understanding how you were able to pay it off in 3 years. I'm like,
Yeah.
how
So it gets
if
you
you're
a
paying
time, 'cause
$5,000?
that kind of goes into what is your plan to restore your credit. It all has to come together. So there are a lot of pieces, because I knew, like, if I'm giving you that 3 years, I had a plan, like, all right, this is where my credit score is going to be here. I already knew what bank, or actually it was a credit union, I'm taking to actually get that refied out. So I already had that plan. Now, some owner financing, I know investors that put people in 20 years owner's financing.
I see.
So people will do 20, people will hold it for 20 years. Particularly, I see that a lot in like Bucks County and Montgomery County. They'll hold 20-year like mortgages as the bank
Right.
on their financing.
And that it can sometimes be beneficial for someone like a disgruntled landlord who may not be living in the property. They're already getting monthly payments. So if they're going to be getting monthly payments every month anyway, like they've been doing, right? They want to have that monthly income, but they don't want the headache of being a landlord anymore. That's a great, potential for maybe a longer term where you don't need to use the bank to refinance. You could just keep that long-term, agreement.
Yeah.
Right. There was a question over there.
Yeah, I have two questions actually.
Good.
What are certain qualifications that the seller would require from you, like proof of income? I mean, besides the credit issue.
What I've seen, for the most part, they don't ever do credit checks right there. Right now, the oldest ask is a lawyer involved and the contract. I've never actually had where they wanted proof of income. I've never had that requested to me. Actually, I never offered it either, but I always told them what I do, but I never gave them like any income sheets or any tax returns, anything of that nature. And I think that's the real beauty of seller financing, that it is streamlined, so you don't have to go through all of the documents that you have to do for a traditional loan. And it can be done much faster, so if everything works out, my deals are more spread out just because that's how I like to do them, but I know people that do deals to seller financing and get them done within a month. They're just very excited. It's like, hey, I'll give you this, this, and this. I'll run title. It's back. Let's go. That's just not my style.
So my second question is, what happens if the seller dies within that period? I mean, not the.
Yes. So my contracts that I have now actually have that in there right now. Like, guess what? Her kids now take ownership as the bank. So I have 6 properties that I'm doing seller finance with in Upper Darby. From this, so actually she was on her 3rd husband. It was actually her 3rd husband's properties. She's about 78, 79. She's sharp though, man. She's a bull. At the closing table, she was like, that was 24 cents. And she was like, I want that 24 cents. I was like, all right, you got it. No lie, that's so true. I was like, you're a bull about it. Like, she don't play no games, but she actually placed it in there knowing like she could die. She wanted in that contract. And that was something I never thought of until then. And that was 2016, I picked those up. And so we actually put a clause in the contract, guess what? And if she, unfortunately, early termination or dies, guess what? Now it goes to her daughter. And then from her daughter, it's to her son.
Okay.
Now from the son, state. That's where it is right now.
How do you know when you're ready to do something like this? Do you have to have a certain amount of cash up front?
I would say you would have at least have a some cash just for closing costs. I would say this maybe around 2,000, 3,000 will get you a house for seller financing. Yeah, and keep in mind, I like almost 26 months. I was kind of going from 2013 to 15ish. I was just doing drive-bys and knocking cold door knocks and pitching that sell to people. So I had a lot of no's. So when I got that first yes, I was like, oh, all right, what do I do? I was like, oh, all right. So that's where I pieced together that first contract and was like, oh, all right, let me just put this together. And I was like, I advise you not to do that. So it's better to be prepared for an opportunity that you don't have and have an opportunity and not be prepared for. So you just make sure, you're always just preparing for what you're manifesting and what your ambitions are.
I was under the impression that you need a lot of cash.
No, you don't need a lot of cash. You don't need a lot of cash. You don't need, in my opinion, I always say, people think that I was so talented to do what I'm doing, and I always tell people there's no talent here. It's only pure obsession. That's it. Pure obsession. I work around the clock looking at numbers, neighborhoods, knowing, I can walk in houses and tell you how much they can be rehabbed for. It's kind of it's this pure obsession. There's no talent here. All I did was put the time in, and I sacrificed my leisure time for where I want to be. And so that's really what it comes out to be, I even kind of describe passion a little bit, I had a passion to play basketball, but I ain't going to the NBA. I'm 5'4". So, that passion is a little overrated too, I go like, what do you want to spend your most time in? And then that's what you should utilize. Like, whatever you want to spend your time in, go ahead, that's what you put in. And D, I'm obsessed by it because like that's me, whatever. Around the clock, I'm always thinking of numbers, or it's in there. So yeah, but you don't need a lot of money. You just need to know how to work the deal and see what you can do for your customer. And that's where I say sales and customer service really comes in. So like, and actually listen. Most salespeople are always in a rush to pitch. Like, I can do this, but they're actually not listening to what the customer actually needs and wants. So I actually just like to listen, like, what are your wants and needs? And let me see if I can provide it. I'm better at providing those needs now just because I'm in a different space than I was, 4 or 5 years ago, and I have more resources to actually help folks. So, which is a blessing itself.
So I just want to make sure I'm super clear and understand this. So with seller financing, the goal is find someone who's already paid off their home.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Normally it's free and clear because if it's not free and clear, it goes into another top subject called subject to.
So if it's free and clear, I say, hey, here's what I want to offer you for your home. Usually we're going to add some sort of percentage on top of it that really incentivizes them to want to do the deal with you. And then from there, your goal is to go, like, act as if you own the home, go to like a bank and get it refinanced.
Well, you will own the home, so you'll have to go to a closing. Okay. You'll get the deed in your name if the deal comes and you come to a contractual agreement. You will own that home. Okay. What I would say first is that
what's been transacted for me to own the home at
the
this
deed
point?
gets transferred into your name
With the agreement to pay that percentage.
Yeah, that's in the contract, but the deed won't say that. The deed will just say you own the home.
Yep.
The contract itself will have all what your monetary contributions will be to the owner per month.
Okay, and then at that point, the goal is to then refinance it with the bank because you have this asset that has hundreds of thousands of dollars of value.
Yep.
And then if you're smart at the same time, you're gonna, if the person's not living there, you're gonna try to find tenants to also bring in revenue.
Correct.
At that time. Okay.
Or you could live in it yourself.
Thank
If you're
you.
trying to buy your first home,
Yeah.
you can do that. You can live in it, and then that's the way you can start to buy your own home. And as Noel said before, you can do the refinancing or for the balloon payment you agreed upon, or if you can negotiate a longer term agreement, like a 20-year, 15-year, you potentially won't even need the bank. You can just pay them. That, just like you'd pay the bank, you're just paying a person. And the beauty in that is that we can keep the money in our community.
I have a question. So, I own a home. Well, it got passed down to me because I'm learning things right now the older I get. So it got passed down to me when I was 21. My mom passed, but my sister takes over everything else because, of course, she has more experience and she's a homeowner too. So, I just want to figure out questions to ask my sister because eventually, she's probably gonna put everything on me for me to take over the home, and then she's gonna work on focusing her home for her kids.
Right.
So, I was thinking like, I'm about to be 30, so I know I was raised in that home. I know like 30 years. I don't know what my mom did. I need to ask that.
Yeah.
But I know it's like 30.